Hey guys, I figured I'd make a bit of an unstructured video today. Just kind of, I don't know, I kind of felt like making it because it's final, well, I'm in my senior year, final semester, and this week I just had my last class week officially, and I will be graduating next week. Very exciting. So the way that my school Emerson College, the way it works is that we usually finish our classes early, and then we have like this 1 week period called senior week where we do a bunch of activities. Mostly it's just info sessions, preparation, just parties and all that. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I've honestly felt kind of tired of going out. I'm not gonna lie. I felt like honestly, I just wanted to make this video because in a very unstructured way, just because I wanted to get kind of my full thoughts out there, um, and kind of reflect on my journey so far. So I first came transferred to Emerson when I was in my junior year, and it was mainly because things at my old school were not really going that well. I had a good group of friends, and I knew some decent people, and I was involved in uh, this one org that I really liked, but I felt like a lot of the opportunities I had were pretty limiting. Plus, I was also in some toxic relationships that were not really healthy for me personally. So I had to leave those behind, and I felt like Emerson was going to be a good fresh start, and for the most part, it was. Um, I had a good group of roommates my first year. They were really supportive. All of them were actually transfers, and all of them had stories kind of similar to me. So it felt like we had a good group of friends, kind of going together. They were more music students, or like they were more music minded than film, but they would like occasionally help me out with my projects. But yeah, and that first year was interesting because I spent a lot of time just mainly getting on different sets as a first AC, and it was nice. But one thing that I did notice about this school is that it felt like anytime you tried to reach out to people outside of, just professionally working on sets or in class, usually they're pretty unresponsive. And that's something that I've actually heard a lot at Emerson, that this is like something that's pretty common, that people tend to be pretty unresponsive about a lot of things. And I definitely felt that way during my first year. I felt like it was very clicky. Like even some of my roommates, even they would like sometimes hang out like outside of what we were doing, and like they would just go to events and sometimes not invite me occasionally. And it was just because, it was just because they were like I was busy myself doing something else, but also it was a case of they were also just hanging out with a different friend group than me. So yeah, I mean they got to go to some events that I didn't get to go to, and I don't know, like I did feel kind of left out in that regard. But for the most part, I like the experience I got. I just wish that people did try to reach out a little more, or were more interested in getting to know people outside of, just using them for, you know, their sets, or using freshmen, for example, for sets. And this is an attitude I've noticed a lot among my seniors, which is this kind of attitude of kind of looking down on freshmen, which I don't really like to do, especially because on my set, most of my crew were freshmen, and I always made sure to treat them with absolute respect. And I always made sure to also make it a learning environment for them where they had, more responsibilities and had the ability to stretch their muscles. But I've heard that at Emerson, most people tend to prefer to only hire, their friends, and I've heard that it can be many seniors can be pretty exclusionary towards new people and new freshmen, which I think is pretty toxic, especially considering that this is supposed to be a film school where we're all supposed to be helping each other and be very collaborative. So, it people shouldn't have this kind of um, preconceived bias that, oh, someone's not gonna do good just because they're a freshman. Especially because, I mean, speaking as a former freshman myself, I mean, that's the best way freshmen can get opportunities. So I definitely think that the way the school handles that integration with freshmen is interesting. Um, but yeah, I also noticed that there were several other services at the school that it seemed like they were kind of exaggerating about. Like in general, there are just a lot of minor issues. Like the lift in my dorm, or my dorm building, has been basically inoperational for like 2 weeks. No, not the door. The lift in Paramount, which is the dorm I'm in. One of them has been shut for like 2 weeks, and it is so annoying. And what's worse is that the school keeps every year they keep cutting funding for various programs. Like they recently cut funding for the PCAF, which used to be like the max, but it was like in the basement of Paramount. But they cut funding for that just to get rid of it, and only to add a couple more refurbishments to the game room. And yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Everyone thinks it's stupid because the game room was already there in the first place. And it was like an unnecessary addition that just made it kind of harder for like Paramount students. And also in general, when it comes to like, uh, yeah, aside from like the social life and other things like that, you might be curious. Well, how are the classes at Emerson? I would say that if you're a VMA or depending on your major, taking the you'll definitely enjoy a lot of the advanced level classes that they have to offer. A lot of the professors are really great in those. Especially if you're a VMA, I would highly recommend to do ELA. I did one semester um, last year in the fall, and it was great. It was a great experience, mainly because I'd never been to LA before, and it was just good to be out of Boston to just try a new thing. Also, in ELA, you're with a smaller group of kids, as opposed to Boston, where you're split between like five different buildings across like three city blocks. Everyone's on like one campus, and there's like the shared quad, and sometimes I would just go there every Friday to like grill some burgers with my roommates. And yeah, and sometimes other people would come, and it would be a great opportunity to connect with people. There's a ping pong table right there, and there's just a lot to do in LA that's a lot more fun, more interesting. There are great beaches, great restaurants, great nightlife too. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that. And the classes that you'll take there are definitely going to be more relevant to you career wise, and definitely more enjoyable. At least for me, I found them more enjoyable and definitely more relevant to what I was doing. Whereas at Emerson, it feels like a lot of times you're just taking like classes just because. And this is another thing that kind of frustrates me for a school that very much prioritizes filmmaking. I felt like even as a junior year transfer that already had a lot of credits from like previous film theory classes, I still had to take, I can't believe it this, but two film theory classes in my one in my junior year, and one this semester in my senior year. That's I think that's freaking ridiculous because number one, film theory should be over by like sophomore year, and number two, some of the advanced level courses are much more relevant to the skills that we want to do. Like I want to focus on directing, and I'm not gonna lie, some of the advisors are not really good at communicating the types of classes that you should take. I will say that in general, the admin don't seem to like helping students, which I found very shocking. I found like the attitude very dismissive and rude. Like I was when I transferred over, I was placed with this one transfer advisor. Literally like her first words to me were like, "I only have 30 minutes. That's all the time I have," and that to me kind of spoke to, I guess, the attitude that they had, or how they felt in general about students here, not even just transfer students, but about students in general, where they only kind of saw them for the value they added, which I think was just so blatant and disgusting. Um, and yeah, I've heard a lot of other reports about the school being, not kind of the fairy tale image of what it purports to be. Of course, no school is ever going to be like that. Even USC, it's not going to be perfect. It's obviously going to have its flaws. Um, but overall, what did I think of my time at Emerson? I thought that I was definitely satisfied with what I did, even though I will say that the school, in terms of its bureaucracy, makes it very hard for you to do a lot of things. Like, for example, things from like just getting a location, you can't even like film on campus without having to fill out a waiver, and you have to book a space to film. Uh, don't even get me started on the EDC. I've talked with plenty of friends about the absolute nightmare it is to like just get equipment. Um, Sometimes like they just make it so purposefully difficult with just the sheer level of paperwork they have us do, and it feels not even necessary half the time. The only real advantage I would say is like, making use of the workshops that a lot of the student orgs have, like FBS, EIV. That's definitely the best way to like get hands-on experience. And also, of course, student sets are great. Even though I've heard that it is hard to get on them. Once you, I feel, are on one good set, then you can just kind of continue on from there. And as long as you're reliable and you can show up and do good work, then I feel like you'll be fine. Otherwise, I thought that yeah, I was really disappointed by just the organization of the school itself more than like what the school had to offer, because I think it definitely had the potential to be very good in a lot of ways, but the way um, a lot of the advisors communicated and the way they sort of, you know, their lack of communication and engagement was really shocking. And I'm also really surprised by their lack of engagement with their career center and some of their advisors, which it feels like, their main job is to like give you the most basic advice about like how to improve your resume, how to improve your cover letter, etc., but never to give you anything actually personalized so that it genuinely helps you in the specific situation that you're in. It feels like a very base template way of just saying, "Oh, here's what you can do to improve yourself," but nothing specific, if you know what I mean. And yeah, I definitely felt that way this semester. I applied to like nearly 273 positions and counting. Um, and I was only able to get like three interviews, and I got one internship position that's remote, unpaid one, but it speaks to just how how much. I mean, I guess more or less the market itself is not really that great, more than any other school, but I kind of hope that Emerson would offer something more than just guest speakers, something more like an in-person workshop, or an alumni meeting, or like having more in-person networking events, like formals for like that's what happened at Quinnipiac. That's what they used to offer, at least. I will say that Quinnipiac definitely had formals for much more of the business school than they did the film department, but they would still have like screenings and after events where students would be able to kind of interact with the directors and the producers and writers. And I went to two that involved documentaries, and they were really good and really interesting. I felt like it was a very valuable experience for me. And yeah, I thought that Emerson would definitely have benefited for that because they do them in ELA all the time, and it's easier for them to do that there, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I found my experience so far uh, a pretty mixed bag. But even though I say that now, I feel like my answer will probably change later, depending on how I feel about it later. But I will say that compared to how I went into Emerson, with the expectations I had and when I came out with it, I really felt like I came out just knowing myself better rather than understanding the school a lot better because, to be honest, with the school, what you see is what you pretty much get. Um, yeah, they very much leave you on your own, and they expect you to mainly help them. And it's kind of weird. It's not how I think school should be. I personally think that of any film school should be just an opportunity for students to just create the work that they want to do, to learn about out how to refine their skills, to interact with and work with other creators, uh, to create the work that they want to do, and of course network with potential mentors and take up those apprenticeships. But I feel like maybe I'm describing a more technical school, and I didn't like Emerson in the fact that it was still very academic, like the fact that there were so many classes where I had to write. I swear to God, like I had one class where we had to write like one short essay every 2 weeks, and it was this semester. Yeah, it was absolute hell. But yeah, I mean, I felt like there wasn't even anything I gained out of it. Yeah, I felt like I understood the topic itself much better, but, you know, it was not really useful for me to apply it in my personal life. Like, I don't know what more I could say about that. Um, Perhaps I'm taking the wrong lesson out of this, and I always could be, but that's just how I'm seeing it with the expectations that I had and what I went into Emerson expecting and what it actually delivered, um, which was definitely different than what I imagined. I expected a little bit. I mean, I expected a little bit more, but it was okay. I mean, it was fine. I felt like I did my best, and I was satisfied with at least the work that I've done so far. And while some of my other friends are thinking about grad school and other options, I personally am happy to just be done and to just move on and work on better things. But yeah, guys, that's just my overall thoughts on Emerson so far. Yeah, I wanted to just try a different style of video this time from my usual content. Um, yeah, and this is just like, and you guys can let me know if you guys want to see more personal videos like this where it's just me directly talking to you, kind of giving my thoughts slightly unfiltered. Um, yeah, and I appreciate you guys for hearing me and sticking around. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time.